You know what, Kevin? You know what? Woohoo! You know what?
What's up?
Fuck Star Wars, all right? That's so every single human being on the planet that I know this Thursday, today, when we're recording, they're all out watching that Star Wars. But you and I mostly have a job to do, and you've graciously agreed to come along because apparently you also didn't bother to buy tickets like 6 months ahead of time. So that being said, welcome everybody to the Rage Select podcast. I'm not bitter at all. I'm not bitter at all about Star Wars. I am Jeff, and Kevin, it's been so long. I need to see, how long has it been? It's been what, like 6 months since you were here?
It's been a while. Yeah. I don't know.
What have you been up to?
Lose track of time. My life is the same every day. Nothing. Playing Fallout 4. Collecting video games. Nothing much. It's just whatever. Same, not seeing Star Wars.
Not seeing. Yep. Have you? So okay. Well, I tell you what. Have you played anything in the last, I just looked it up, 5 months since I talked to you, that you feel that the people that you want to put your Kevin stamp of approval on? You want to say, bam, this is Kevin approved. I'm actually going to make that stamp and then just take it to GameStop and start stamping like all of the Skylanders games. Just Kevin approved.
Yeah. That's what I'm all about. Collecting the amiibos and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
No, I don't know. I mean, I'm playing a lot of Steam stuff, and I can't think right off the top of my head, though, anything that's just stood out, Kind of just got on the Fallout 4 bandwagon and sunk way too much time into that I'm not quite sure is fun. Not quite sure it's time spent having fun. It's more just like I'm just trying to finish it at this point.
Mm-hmm.
I've done tons of stuff in it. I guess there's parts of it that are fun, but it's really mostly just sorting through inventory lists and walking around.
I tell you what, I've actually had a lot of love and respect for Fallout 4, but there's one thing that I can say is that, like, I don't understand how it's 2015 and the inventory is so atrocious in that game. Like,
it's bad.
Mark for disassembly, mark for sale. I don't understand because of in the ways that you would have like different setup. Because I had like the armor that I would use when I was fighting people and the armor that I would use when I was talking to people. And like, how can I not just set a macro to just say, save all this as loadout 1 and this as loadout 2, so I could just boop boop. Considering the sheer amount of shit that is in that game, it seems like one of the things that a developer would be like, we should give people an easy way to get through all this stuff.
The load times are also terrible. It seems to me like it's the same game engine. They just improved the graphics and tweaked it here and there, but it's not a lot different from Fallout 3 in that respect. And so I little bit disappointed there, but overall it's okay.
Were you a big fan of Fallout 3?
I thought it was pretty good. I mean, I completed 3. 3 didn't seem that long to me. I didn't complete Vegas though.
Mm-hmm.
I played Vegas and I didn't have a problem with it, but I think some other games at the time were taking me off of it.
Okay.
I never went back. Witcher 3 I think was game of the year for me, and I played through that, religiously. Really enjoyed it. And coming off of playing Witcher 2 to completion, that was, that's my year, man.
No
Witcher 3, Fallout 4. That's about it.
No Bloodborne for you, Kevin? No.
No, I've never. No, didn't get a chance to play Bloodborne. Played a little bit of Ghost, or what is it? Rainbow Six Siege.
Boy, that game is kind of dull. Just in a year of so many different things, Black Ops 3 gave you cyborg superpowers, and Metal Gear, you could drop a tank from the sky, and it was just kind of like, seemed like Rainbow Six was just Rainbow Six. It just seemed like very much like a throwback game. Like I would have expected to play something like that on the PlayStation 3, and I mean, I don't know. Maybe you got to get real into it or take it like super seriously. So you get your friends together and be like, "Go, go, go, Alpha Team! Breach, clear! Everybody!"
There's something about those games where like you die very easily that can sometimes be appealing after I've grinded through something like The Witcher 3 for 100 hours or whatever. It's kind of like now I'm vulnerable. So it's just a different experience. But I'm not saying it's great. I just thought it's okay. been playing that a little bit.
Any Star Wars for you? Any Battlefront? I've been really waiting.
No, I had it on pre-order, and then after the beta or whatever that was that they had, I didn't play it, but everybody was kind of saying that it's like a kid's game. I canceled my pre-order, and I just didn't get it. I was just like, it seems like, everybody was too lukewarm. I heard it looks great, but, I'll get it eventually when it's cheap.
I had a lot of fun with it. I think it was actually really funny, though, because have you seen that there's like some modder out there that created this mod for the PC version that'll let you run it in like 4K, and they did like a bunch of new, I don't know, I'm just going to say stuff, and I don't know what these words mean, like normal mapping and lighting and particle inclusions. Whatever. The end result is that it looks super, super good. And last week, poor Jason Murphy saw that, and I was just like, aw, because you're going to need like a $2,500 PC to run it at that, and a 4K monitor or TV. But, the guy, like, Battlefield is his favorite franchise, and Star Wars is his favorite thing of all time. And so it's just like, yeah, how could you not? I mean, what the fuck are you going to do? Well, that's cool. Let's see. Well, I tell you what, we've got a fair amount of news. I mean, as everybody knows, there's not. I don't do anything anymore, Kevin. I just sit here and I'm just full on choice, like paralyzed by the number of video games. So I'll just be sitting here like, should I keep playing Xenoblade Chronicles, or maybe they just patched Just Cause 3. Maybe I should. Well, I do have Devil's Third, but then I also was. I don't know. And then, should I go back to Fallout 4? Should I play the Battle of Jakku map? Should I go back to The Witcher 3 and finish it? I haven't finished the DLC for Bloodborne yet, which I complained about this, and I understand. This is the third week in a row that I've complained about this, and that it is literally like the most first world whiny bitch complaining of all time. Like, wow, there's too many good video games,
It's true.
But I just end up, what ends up happening is I end up playing like 20 minutes of every game instead of just sitting down with one of them and playing it to actually make any progress on it. But before we get into the news, and there's a kind of a weird amount of news this week. We also had there was a bunch of trailers last week that everybody was, pissy movie trailers. Everybody was like pissy and upset about, or I don't know. The natural state of the internet, in my opinion, is pissy and complaining. Just
yes,
just like me. But so what we had? Did you watch the one for Independence Day 2?
Yes.
Okay, I didn't see that. What did you think?
I think it's going to be terrible, but the other people that I talk to think it's going to be amazing. Mm-hmm. So they're usually wrong. Therefore, I think it's not going to be good. It looked big on effects and light on any kind of storyline. You know what I mean? Other than aliens are going to attack Earth again, and there's going to be a battle and stuff.
I guess the thing that I don't entirely understand, Kevin, is do we as a culture look back fondly on Independence Day? I thought we all agreed that Roland Emmerich is just a goddamn hack, and who the fuck, yeah.
None of his movies are really all that great, doesn't have a great track record of making films. Okay. So, I don't know. It's maybe it'll surprise us, but I kind of doubt it.
Okay. Let's see. There was also. I also didn't watch it was a Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 2.
Yeah, I didn't see that one.
Trailer. No. Okay, so we don't have anything to.
I never even watched the first movie, so I'm totally not with it.
It was awful. It was just.
Okay.
It was kind of like, what was the? It was like Fantastic Four. I couldn't figure out how it was so boring. How it was just like. This is like some Michael Bay special effects and CGI turtles, and usually I'm all into that, but I think it might have been just on the other side of the stupid line, to the point where I was just like, I can't. It's too dumb. Let's see, X-Men Apocalypse.
I saw that one.
What'd you think about that? I think that a lot of people.
I think it's going to be terrible, but because they've just got a great track record now of making those movies awful, and I'm a huge X-Men fan. Mm-hmm. I grew up on X-Men, and I love everything X-Men, but this is just I can't stick with them anymore. They should just give the franchise back to Marvel, because It doesn't look good to me.
Did you like the last one? Did you like Days of Future Past?
It wasn't terrible.
Yeah.
That's all I got for that.
High praise.
I mean, there were parts in it that were just awful, but
right.
There were other parts that were okay. It's just, I don't know. It's like they're just trying to throw in as many cameo mutants as they possibly can, And this looks worse. This looks like they're just like throwing in tons of extra people that don't necessarily need to be there to advance any kind of a storyline. So yeah, I'm not that excited about it.
I don't know how you as a how you as a comic book / X-Men fan may feel about this particular statement, but one thing I noticed in the trailer was it was like, oh look, it's Jubilee, the most worthless X-Man right. of all time. Oh no, wait, I'm sorry, the second most worthless X-Man compared to Dazzler, who was also totally worthless back in the old days. I think the thing that might be happening with these, and I don't know if this is just, if everybody out there, if I'm slow on the uptake and everybody else is like, well, duh, Jeff, yeah, is that this trailer just looks like so many, I've just seen so many trailers in the last few weeks where it's like, somebody says something dramatic and then the quick cut and then something explodes. And for this, it was like, okay, well, this is exactly like this other trailer, except that that's Apocalypse instead of Shredder, right? Or, Jeff Goldblum, right. Or, Mr. Fantastic or whoever the fuck it was. So
it looks like, what's his name? The evil guy. I totally forgot. Apocalypse. It looks like he just controls people. He gets into them and he takes control of them or whatever, And so it's like it's another one of those kind of like Jessica Jones on Netflix or whatever. Somebody's controlling you, and then Apocalypse has all these powers and things, but they're just going to have to scrap with each other and fight these different characters. And then eventually they're going to have to go beat him up. I mean, what else is it going to be about?
Yeah.
It's just going to be, it's just going to be a brawl film.
And then the one thing I will say about this particular trailer that I really enjoyed more than almost every of the other trailers is the fact that this trailer makes such a big deal out of showing you what's his face who's playing Professor X with his head shaved at the end.
Yeah.
That's the cap on that. That's like, you're like, you were sitting there. I like to think that the people who made the trailer, that they were like, all right, well, we got him, man. We got him. But we need that that knockout punch. We need that thing at the end. It's just going to be him like, I don't know. Then they're going to be like, oh, what can we do? It's like, let's shave his head so that he looks like Patrick Stewart. And it's almost like they did that, and I saw it, and it was like, is that supposed to be like am I supposed to be really impressed? I mean, I know he has a shaved head later on. I've got a shaved head. It's not exactly like a mutant power to shave your head. I do it once a week. Like, it's not a big deal.
He does kind of look like Hitman, Agent 47, actually, in a wheelchair.
Yeah, he does. He looks a lot more like Hitman than anybody else that they've cast in the last. I tried watching that last Hitman movie and I just fell asleep in the middle of it. And then when I woke up, I was like, should I try to watch it again? And I was like, nah. This wasn't going anywhere. And then last but not least, before we jump into the news, everybody got their panties in a twist about that new Star Trek trailer.
I did not watch that.
Oh, okay.
I heard it wasn't good though.
I mean, I don't feel like, again, it's been a common theme with me on this show for the last few weeks or months of just like, I mean, I don't know. It looks like a Star Trek movie. It doesn't exactly. It's not as good of a trailer as maybe some of the other ones were. It's just a kind of an action montage of a bunch of different Star Trek stuff. I think people were complaining because the trailer used the Sabotage by the Beastie Boys during it.
Okay.
But there was obviously a callback to the very first movie where he's listening to that. I don't know. Whatever. Anyway, it's probably going to be fine. Or maybe not. I don't know. This is Justin Lin. This is the first one that's not J.J. Abrams. And I may not have my Trek wiki all the way memorized, but I don't recognize that this is like a ripoff of a different Star Trek plot. So there's at least that to say.
Oh, well, that's good. Yeah.
So, all right. Well, with that, I mean, I don't know. Is there anything else interesting that you've seen that's not video game related, Kevin? You like to talk about?
Not off the top of my head that I can think of now.
Okay, fair enough. Well, then let us just jump right into the news. And actually, it's funny how it's been 7 months since you and I talked, and I think the last time that you were on the podcast, we talked at length about Hideo Kojima. And this week,
yes,
the kickoff story is that he's finally out from Konami and pretty much immediately announced that he was partnering up. He was creating his own studio called. Is this new studio called Kojima Productions? Isn't that the exact same?
I think so. Yeah,
same name as his last one. I thought that wasn't that the name of the studio at Konami that made the Metal Gear games, Kojima Productions.
Yes.
Okay.
I think you're right.
Because they probably can't just say like, well, you can't use your name anymore because go fuck yourself. But
we own your name.
That's right.
Change it.
But he came out and they had this little announcement video where they said not much of anything, but apparently he started his own studio. His first game's going to be a timed PS4 exclusive that will eventually come to the PC. No information whatsoever about what it is. The only thing I think is really notable about this particular story is just how fast all this happened. Like, he didn't even take time for, well, I don't know if they do Christmas as such in Japan, but I mean, just the day that he was able to go out, he's like, boom, and I'm going to continue making games.
Yeah, he's not allowed to actually talk about what happened at Konami, though. That's the real thing that I want to know. I want to know what happened. Mm-hmm. I don't know really why I want to know because it really, doesn't matter, but it's odd, right? Konami has this guy. He makes them $1 billion probably over the lifetime of Metal Gear. And, what happened with that relationship that they lost him? But he's still making games. If he was like, I'm not going to make games anymore, I'm going to become a mountain climber.
Right.
And I'm so glad my contract is up because I want to climb mountains. I could get it.
Yeah.
But he's still making video games and he still wants to make big video games. Mm-hmm. So how did Konami fuck that up? That's the question.
The thing is that I'm not entirely like the more that this particular little saga has played out over the course of this year, the more my thoughts are more head in the direction of Konami has lost their fucking mind. Like,
it's gotta be it.
As a company, it just seems like you've crapped away every franchise that you have except for PES, and that the last thing, and that people were I was as excited as could be for Metal Gear Solid 5, and that when it comes out, you see all this, there's this cut content that's online, and this whole, on the special edition disc, this whole other chapter that was supposed to be in the game. And, it seems like the game was kind of cut off a little bit at the knees. Like there were some, the Snake doesn't have nearly have enough dialogue in this game, just compared to other games. Just like suddenly the character is like real stoic and mute as opposed to other games where he won't shut up about. I mean, for God's sake, one of the cliches of the series is that he repeats the thing that the person just said to him, right? Right. Is it like, you've got to go to the Quiznos, and he's like, Quiznos, right. And then it's like, then last week, we talked about, I don't know who at Konami was like, well, let's just bar him from coming to the Video Game Awards, where they're probably going to be giving him an award for his video game. Yeah, that'll make us look good, right? People will love us for that. I mean, the point where goddamn Keeley, right, who isn't exactly the most indie outsider, presence of all time, is willing to just stand up on TV and kind of be like, yeah, fuck Konami. Like, it's shitty. So yeah, I don't know. I mean, they just seem like they've fully imploded. Maybe their CEO is just like, I hate video games. I don't want to make them anymore.
I mean, maybe, but they had that Silent Hills that everybody and their brother was excited about after that demo. Yeah, and they had all of these pieces in place to make that happen. And I mean, what happens in an office environment that's probably very relaxed anyway, that did he come in and he's just like, I hate all of you, I wish you were dead, and nobody was like, just Let him go, chill out for a while. He'll be, I mean, I can't understand it.
Well, I tell you what, did you see, I mean, I think it was probably, we talked about it on the podcast at some point like 5 or 6 months ago. Did you see 5 or 6 months ago that like it was a bunch of internal memos that got out from Konami that said that like, if you go against the grain that they'll transfer you to like the janitorial division of the sports clubs, and like they'll like read your email, and they've got like blockers to make sure you can't contact anybody personally. It was like there was this report from an ex-Konami employee that just make working at Konami sound like it was like a prison almost, and that you couldn't ever say anything. They would monitor like your Facebook and stuff, and if you ever said anything, they wouldn't fire you. They would do what I was saying. They would move you to a shittier job in a different division of Konami to try to punish you for your indiscretion. It was just like, the fuck, man! Like
the guys committing seppuku out front because they dishonored the Konami brand or something.
Yeah,
I mean, they've done more damage to themselves over this whole affair than anything you could possibly do. I mean, it's just ridiculous. But it makes no sense. I'm looking forward to it. I'm looking forward to that book that's translated into English that I can read about his time at Konami, because it's got to be something.
Yeah,
it's got to be something really interesting.
My own personal opinion on this is that Metal Gear Solid 5 was like delayed several times because he got all Kojima perfectionist on it, and that he eventually had to go back to them and be like, I need another $10 million and a year to finish this game the way that it needs to happen. And they're like, fuck you, put it out now. And that at this point, he was just like, no. Or, oh, okay, fine, I'll put it out, but then you and me, we're done. Like, no more. And because that's the only thing I can think of. I mean, unless it's like you said, unless it's like you went in and took a crap on somebody's desk, right? Unless it's literally like some Fight Club, he beat himself up in his boss's office, kind of weird shit that happened, or got drunk and fucked the CFO of Konami in a bar one night or so. I don't know.
He's got his own Fight Club. That's great.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, I hope we find out. I mean, I hope he doesn't just like keep it to himself, because that's the honorable Japanese thing to do. Spill it. We want to know. Somebody should pay him.
Just for everybody, it looks like there was this FAQ that Sony put up and then took down, so I didn't have time to read it. But there was some information here where they said that it's not going to have anything to do with either Metal Gear or Silent Hills, which I would think would be pretty obvious. No matter how much people want Silent Hills, I mean, that's the other real shit part about Konami acting like this, is that they still own the rights to Silent Hill, Castlevania, and Metal Gear. Like three of these like tentpole franchises. And that, like, what, 2 months ago they were like, after Metal Gear, we're just not going to make any games except for PES Soccer anymore, and Silent Hill pachinko games. It's just like, what the are you on drugs? I don't. Anyway, and then he put out. This is one of those kind of like game industry news, just scrapping for stuff. But I love this logo that they have. It's like a weird skull inside of like a knight armor helmet, but it's like cyber, and it's very strange looking. But I can't wait, because I think Kojima should have been making games that weren't Metal Gear like 10 years ago. I talked to. It was funny because I think I talked to Jason about this, where he was like, "Are you sad that this is the last Metal Gear game?" And I'm like, "I thought that 4 should have been the last Metal Gear game. I want this guy out making something that's not goddamn Metal Gear." Also, there was a quick interview with IGN where apparently Kojima said that they might be interested, once they've got set up with whatever their new game is, about actually branching out into different IPs and properties. I think that would be great, because that dude has always wanted to make his own movie, and it would probably be terrible, and I really want to see that terrible Hideo Kojima movie. So, all right, next up on the list, there was this is a weird one. Kevin, did you see this patent that came out from Nintendo for what could possibly be the NX game controller?
No.
Okay, so it was published in June with the U.S. Patent and Trademark Office, and then was actually put out. It was, by the time this comes out, it would have been a little bit more than a week ago. That is if you look at it, it's like the size of a normal controller, and it's got 2 sticks on the front of it and then 2 shoulder buttons on the sides, but then the face of the controller is a screen where you can see stuff. So almost like the Nintendo, like the Wii U pad, but like it's been shrunk down and streamlined a little bit more so that it doesn't have all that extra space around the edges. It's kind of interesting. I think everybody should go take a look at it, but...
is it any different other than just shrunk down? I mean, because other than Nintendo, I mean, who really, developed for the Wii U and really did anything interesting with that extra screen on that Wii U? It's like weird. Like, I don't...
Yeah, I mean...
It's a weird decision to support something that the other consoles aren't using, because most of your major games are not going to use it, and I don't know. Nintendo hasn't even really used it to any, like, amazing, thing that's going on there where you're like, I gotta have that extra screen, I gotta stop looking at my 4K television because I totally need to look at this tiny, crappy screen in my hands to help drain the battery quicker. I don't know. I'm sorry. I'm just being bitter.
Oh, no, that's fine. I mean, I played... I thought, Nintendo, it's funny because when you actually look back at the Wii U, it's been a pretty cool year for stuff on the Wii U. It's just that none of it has really been about the gamepad. I guess Splatoon kind of used it a little bit because you could see kind of what the map, and you could use it to fast travel across the map. That was kind of interesting. But, all the stuff that I really liked this year, like Bayonetta, didn't bother to use that, and Xenoblade Chronicles. Xenoblade Chronicles used it as a map, but then it got real weird because you could play the game on the pad, but then when you're playing on the pad, you couldn't see the map, so you had to it was just a mess.
You got to look at your TV to see the map.
Yeah, no, like I don't know if I missed something here, but like when you're playing it, it has a hex grid map that's actually really important because it shows you where things are, and you figure out in the open world how to get from here to there by looking at the map. Then you take it from the TV and you put it on, because there's actually an icon on the gamepad that you hit, and it suddenly puts the entire game on the gamepad. Great. In order to get back to that map, though, that you use all the goddamn time to quick travel, you have to hit start, go to options, and then change the display mode back to television, and then it goes back. I don't know. It was just really weird. I don't know. I think this seems like interesting as an idea for it seems interesting as an idea for a controller. I just don't know that. From what I'm looking at in this, it looks like they're sacrificing all of the face buttons for real estate to put the game on. I don't know. Yeah, it's strange. I hope that the NX is able to play. I really want Nintendo to get back in the third party game fight. Like, I want the NX to be able to play Bloodborne and Dark Souls 3 and that shit, so that we can at least have that, another contender to keep Sony and Microsoft honest about, what they're putting out. I've said it before. I love competition. I love it when these companies go at each other, because at the end of the day, we're the ones who win. We get free shit and price drops and Black Friday deals. So, well, I guess that wasn't really all that interesting, but I tell you what may be more interesting is they finally rounded out the rest of the people that I believe, the rest of the DLC characters for Super Smash Brothers. And the most interesting of which is probably Bayonetta, of all people, coming to Super Smash Brothers. Yeah, apparently it's regular Bayonetta. She's got the costume for Bayonetta 2, the costume for Bayonetta 1, does all her like Bayonetta crazy hair clothes come off and turn into giant hands and punch people, punch Luigi in the face moves. Also, they're bringing in Corrin, who is the main character from Fire Emblem Fates, the 3DS game that's coming out next year. And there's a lady and dude version because you can pick in Fire Emblem which one you want. So with Cloud, those three represent the last of the DLC characters for Smash Brothers. Do you play Smash Brothers at all, Kevin?
I mean, I've played it back in the day. I haven't played it recently.
Okay. I mean, I guess that was another one that came out this year, right? For the Wii U?
Was it this year? Maybe. Yeah.
Was it? Or no, was it last year?
They doubled down on getting some stuff out for the Wii U to try to salvage it, but I don't know.
Yeah, it's probably it's going to end up going down in history like the GameCube, right? Is an interesting console that had some interesting ideas, but at the end of the day, just ended up lagging a little bit too far behind the competition to really.
Right. Exactly.
Nope, that was last year. Wii U North America, November 21st, 2014. So, So I don't know. Maybe if I'm not too busy with every other video game that happens, maybe one of these days I'll load up Smash Brothers and buy all the
It's a good
DLC.
party game. You got friends over or something. Throw that on. It's good for that.
We played it on a couple of Rage casts, and I thought that it worked really well there because
there you go. Yeah,
like 3 or 4 people sitting on the couch hosting, and then we could have all the other people that are there in the wings kind of playing against each other, and then we could just sit there and judge people, which is great. Let's see. A trailer came out last week for Yakuza 6. Did you see it?
No.
Okay. Do you do Yakuza at all?
No.
Okay. Fair enough.
I'm not against it. It's just one of those titles that never got to.
Yeah. It's funny because I feel like it's a franchise that there's people who do play, but a lot of people don't play it. But I didn't really play it until Yakuza 4 came out, and that was on the PS3, and I started playing it. And then as I played it more and more, it was just like, oh, this is really enjoyable. It's kind of like this weird Japanese Grand Theft Auto with a slightly more over the top plot line. And, instead of cars, you're just running around, and instead of guns, you're just beating people up with these crazy ninja moves. But this trailer looks really fantastic. Like they always take like this one little area of Tokyo and then kind of make their fake version of it. And it's got some really nice, like, just particle and lighting effects in the street. They have one little fight between the character here in the trailer and another guy where he's just beating him up. Like, the whole thing takes place at night, and they've got all of this kind of like wet streets and neon everywhere, and gangsters doing flips. So
who's behind that? Who's the developer?
That's a good question. I think it's been the same company, so I don't want to mess it up. Let's see. Yakuza 6 is Sega, apparently. Yeah.
Really?
Mm-hmm. Let's see. Developers. Yeah, it looks like they've developed all of them. Knowing the way that this stuff works, it's probably some kind of subgroup that is just making all these particular games. But it's actually interesting because this means that we've had Yakuza 5 came out last week. Holy shit. I was looking at the Wikipedia page. Yakuza 5 got a 40/40 from Famitsu, which is actually the highest score that Famitsu has ever given one of the Yakuza games. All the rest of them were like 37/38, 37/38, 38/37.
So it's already out.
Well, no, okay. This is 6. It's so weird because at the PlayStation Experience last week, Yakuza 5 was already out in Japan, and they said Yakuza 5 is coming to the U.S. this Tuesday, which it did, came out this week. They also said that they're bringing Yakuza 0, which is a PlayStation 4 prequel game, to the West. They're localizing that, which I believe is already out in Japan, if I'm not mistaken. And then this week, we also saw a trailer for Yakuza 6. So it's just 3 different Yakuza games all getting talked about in one week.
Right, yeah. Well,
So, yeah, that looks like Yakuza 0 when it came out in Japan this year, March 12th, and is coming sometime next year. But, yeah, this looks really really hot, really interesting. It looks really, really good. Like there's these static shots of streets and lights and shit, and it looks really fantastic. It's one of those things where it's like, here you can really see the difference that the new hardware is making, because the previous Yakuza games were always pretty good looking games, in my opinion. But you can really see that they've upped their game quite a bit with actually, it's funny because everything seems super wet, Kevin. Like every time he punches this guy, like a bunch of just droplets come off of him, regardless of whether he's on the ground or not. All right, next up in the trailer category, there was a trailer for Deserts of Karak, the Homeworld prequel. Did you see this one?
No.
Okay. Blackbird Interactive, this is a story we had earlier this year, is Blackbird Interactive was actually working on this, and then they got bought up, I guess, by Gearbox, and it was supposed to be called...
Really?
What was it supposed to be called? Shipbreakers. Hardware, Shipbreakers. But yeah, this trailer is pretty cool. It's a little strange because it's, for a Homeworld game, it looks like it's all RTS on the ground. Like it looks like Command and Conquer. And it's supposed to be a prequel about the civilization that has the mothership, finding the mothership and building the mothership up and taking it up and getting ready to leave their world. And so it's strange because it would almost be like the next Call of Duty game is a turn-based strategy game where you go, well, no, that's not really the best of comparisons. It just seems like Homeworld has always been this big 3D thing, and to have it on the ground in 2D just seems a little bizarre. But
I was never really a fan of that 3D combat, but I know some people really dug it. So
I like it in concept, but like, man, I'm a fan of Dark Souls, but fuck, Homeworld is hard. Like, you'll get 8 missions into Homeworld and then realize that you fucked up like 4 missions ago, and just like, holy shit. So, all right, next up on the gameplay trailer list, did you play Dying Light this year, Kevin?
Yes, I did. Yes.
Okay. Have you seen anything about the expansion that's coming? The following?
No, I mean a little bit. I didn't see it though. I mean, I heard about it.
Mm-hmm. I haven't really looked too much at this, but I mean, it looks like they've really gone out of their way because Dying Light was very like parkour in the city, running around, and this is very much just like out in the countryside, driving around like dune buggies and doing stuff like way outside of
well, that's cool.
Yeah. In fact, they've come out several times as saying that that they could have basically just repackaged this and created a whole other game, considering the amount of content that it has. I think that when you look at the way that Dead Island Riptide was received, that they probably made a better decision by making it DLC instead of its own game. But whatever happened to Dead Island 2? Remember that? The trailer that had like Jack Black and Aaron Paul? And just nothing.
I mean, is that the same company? Because the games feel very similar to me.
I believe that Dying Light is the same as Dead Island 1. I think that Dying Light... Oh, no, I know what happened to Dead Island 2 is like Jaeger went out of business or got bought by somebody else.
I think they didn't like where the game was going, and they remember they put out a press release where they cut ties.
Yeah, they took it back, right? Is that Jaeger wanted to do something, and then they didn't, and then they just took it back. Yeah. So Techland made Dead Island and Dead Island Riptide, and they also made Dying Light.
Okay.
But yeah. I don't know. This new trailer looks pretty cool. There's a lot to see there. It's one of those things where, in once we hit January, Kevin, and all this shit settles down, there's going to be nothing. And there's going to be nothing for like 3 months. So if Dying Light wants to put out an expansion that's huge and will give me something to play, thank you, Techland, for being solid and putting something out in 2016. Speaking of games that everybody has forgotten about, sorry, Techland, I'll give you some ups and then downs. Did you see last week that they announced that they're adding a new character to Evolve?
No, I didn't see anything about that.
They put out a trailer for this like robot medic called Emmett that they're adding in to Evolve, and I remember seeing this news and just being like, and it's $5. It's $5 to buy this thing. I'm just like, who the fuck is spending $5 on Evolve now?
Right. Yeah. I was just going to ask, are people playing Evolve at this point?
I mean, I'm sure there's probably some people that are still playing it, but man, boy, when you look back at 2015, can you think of something that just kind of like came and went and it was almost like a testament to that they spent so much money hyping that game. And then everybody just kind of went, I don't care. So $5 for Emmett. Anyway, here's something that it's like I said, weird bunch of news this week. Here's something that I'm kind of interested to hear your thoughts about. Is that this week? I don't know if you noticed this. Did you ever get real into Destiny?
No, but I mean, I've played it, a fair bit, but not anywhere near what other people get into. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Not that much.
Did you play the expansion this year, the Taken King?
I like own it and everything. No.
Okay. No. Well, when you bought the Taken King, you got this item that would let you go from level 1 to level 25 right away. You got one of them for buying the Taken King. So you could basically create a new character, and if you didn't want to play through the entirety of the game, you could just boost your way up to the point where you could play the new game, right? Which Warcraft does all the time, apparently. Like World of Warcraft, you can go in and just buy your way up to level 60 or level 90 or a million or whatever the hell the level cap is in WoW these days. But apparently Destiny has started just straight out selling these items on their store for $30. Which seems, I don't know, as like in the back half of this year, like they started by selling those character emotes for real money. and cosmetic stuff for real money, and now you can buy like this experience booster for real money. And they keep saying that they'll never sell like raid drop boosts, like stuff that'll give you a better chance of picking up stuff out of raids for real money. But it almost just seems like they're saying that they'll just keep saying that right up until the point that they start doing it, right up until in February where they go, oh, we changed our mind, and now here is that.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's the main problem. I don't think it's a problem that they're going to sell something because, plenty of other games do that. You can buy a level 60 character in World of Warcraft or something like that. But I think that, the problem here is where they come out and they say, hey, we're not going to have any, pay to win. And then they turn around and they start doing it or whatever. This isn't pay to win because you got more levels that you can get. But it's still, if you work through the game and you earned up to get to that point, you feel a little bit gypped that other people are able to just buy in, and get to where you are. So it's kind of like I understand the frustration with that. And I just think, game companies shouldn't say that they're not going to do something and then turn around and do it because it just puts a bad taste in people's mouths and, they don't have any faith in anything your company says going forward.
Yep. I also think that there's been it's something I was ranting about when I was drunk last week on I think it was like the One of Us podcast or something like that. I got invited last week to the One of Us, this other website's Christmas party where they're just like, we all get drunk and then live stream. And I'm just like, oh, sounds terrible. I'm an angsty, complainy drunk. I don't need to be saying things to other human beings when I'm drunk. I need to just be locked in a room by myself with like a 3DS or something. But as long as people keep buying this stuff, they'll keep doing it. That's one of the main complaints that people had about Star Wars Battlefront is that it had this $50 season pass. You say the only reason there's a $50 season pass is because we all spent $20 on a season pass or $30 on the season pass or $50 on like the Batman season pass, right? I knew people that bought that pre-ordered Batman Arkham Knight along with the season pass as a bundle before it was even out, before they even said what was going to be in that season pass. And I remember talking to this guy and just being like, the hell is wrong with you? Like, it's not like you're getting it cheaper now than you would if you just waited for them to tell you what it's going to be. So yeah, I think that as long as we all keep buying this horse shit, then they'll keep selling it. So, but I think it's kind of a shame. So I think that Destiny actually was kind of before they started this microtransaction-y stuff with the Taken King. It was just, it was a nice, fun game. They fixed a lot of the problems that it had before.
Yeah.
All right, got a couple more stories here, and then we're going to be done. First up, Fable Legends is still a thing.
Oh, really?
Mm-hmm.
I enjoyed the first two Fables. I never got into the third one.
Well, Fable Legends is probably not going to be... You remember what that is, right? Where it's like you and four other people, and then there's a fifth person who plays as like the dungeon master with an iPad, smart glass iPad that puts down like traps and monsters to try to kill and thwart your four-person team as they run through these levels.
Yeah, this is another one of these games that the only part of that game that's fun is the guy that's got the pad making all the traps and building the dungeons. You're never going to find those four other people that are going to want to play through that crap.
Mm-hmm.
It's like that game. Have you heard of that game where it's you try to kill the baby and the baby's trying to run around and kill itself? It's like a baby, and then you have to try to prevent the baby from killing itself. Who wants to be the person trying to prevent the baby?
Right.
Everybody wants to be the baby trying to kill itself.
Yep.
You know what I mean? Like these games don't have the right kind of balance. I think. I mean, sure, I haven't played them, but I don't want to be the person trying to prevent the baby. I want to be the baby trying to drink the bleach underneath the sink. I mean, that's just how it is.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I had a little rant there.
No, it's fine. I understand. Yeah, I don't know. I guess a lot of this just comes back down to like, you say that, and I guess the thing that I think is that this to me kind of hits the same nerve that I get about games like Little Big Planet or what was that Xbox Project Spark on the Xbox One, is that I don't really want to be I'm on the other side of the fence. I don't want to be the dungeon master because I'm like, I want to play a game that has been crafted by a professional game designer. I don't want my asshole friend to drop 6 level 40 traps at a choke point and be like, ha ha, fuck you guys, you know?
Exactly.
Like, I want somebody that's gone to school and has made many games and is a professional that knows all about, like, the difficulty curve and, like, when to introduce new options. I want them to make my game. I don't want to play the level that some jerk-off made of Disney Infinity. I want to play the level that the professional jerk-offs made of Disney Infinity 3.0. Anyway, back to there was an open beta that was supposed to, I believe it was supposed to happen before the year was out, and they've now pushed it over to spring 2016. So if you're still interested in Fable Legends, check it out next spring when there's just goddamn nothing else out. I wish they would just take this and throw it in on top of a burning pile of garbage and make Fable 4 instead. I don't care about some asynchronous multiplayer horse shit. Like, just make a full-on story that I can sit down and play. So. Speaking of Microsoft, they announced the December Xbox One backwards compatibility games that are coming out. Have you done any of that yet with your Xbox One, Kevin?
No. Is it because does it do that now? I don't. Okay. I don't. I mean, I have 2 Xbox Ones and 2 360s all still hooked up. Mm-hmm. So if I want to play a 360 game, I just play it on 360.
Okay.
Maybe I can start putting them away. I don't know.
Well, I mean, far be it from me to tell you how to live your life, Kevin, but it seems like 2 of each console, unless you've somehow devised a system to play like one game with your hands and the other one with your feet at the same time, and you can kind of get something out of that. But let's see. So this list, I'm just going to run through it real fast. Braid, Deus Ex Human Revolution, Doritos Crash Course. I know that we've all been waiting with bated breath for Doritos Crash Course. Fable 3, Halo Reach, Hydro Thunder, Iron Brigade, which I will never stop calling Trenched because that's a way better name. Kane Lynch 2. Oh, yes, the classic Kane Lynch 2. Ms. Pac-Man.
2-hour Kane Lynch 2.
Yeah. Peggle, Portal, Spelunky, Explosion Man, Ticket to Ride, and Zuma's Revenge. John has done this a little bit because he kind of, I mean, for lack of a better term, he mains the Xbox, whereas I tend to gravitate a little bit more towards the PlayStation 4 as my primary console experience. But
sure.
Yeah, Kane and Lynch 2. Who was it at that company? Was that IO Interactive? Who was just like, you know what you probably want to do at some point is see Kane's big fat balding ass run through the streets of Hong Kong shooting people up. Like, that's what we all wanted to see for 20 minutes. All right. Rock Band 4 is getting a bunch of new stuff. They actually did an AMA on Reddit. And I thought that, there's a lot of this shit that is dumb and I don't care about it. What I think was more interesting was they had several different, like, we are definitely not doing these things reports that I thought was really interesting. So no PC support, no Wii U release, but they might put it out on the NX. No keyboard or pro guitar never coming back to Rock Band. No double kick pedals never coming back to Rock Band. I don't think that this should be a surprise to anybody, but Beatles Rock Band will never happen. Actually, what they say, the Beatles Rock Band export is not happening and likely never will. I think that we all probably saw that coming, right? Because they would have a hell of a time. They probably had some super strict rights deal to put out that one version. Because I don't think you could even import that into Rock Band 3. No plans for the M-rated version of songs that have the swear words in them so that you can listen to the songs the way they were originally sang. And, that's pretty much it. I mean, there's got a bunch of other stuff about how, like, they're trying to bring in new character creation options and tournaments and blah, 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 blah. Green Day Rock Band. I know that everybody was, again, waiting with bated breath, but Green Day export is coming to the PS4 and it is already live on the Xbox One. So, if you're sitting there just like, God damn it, all this rocking out is great, but where the hell is my Green Day? Now you could do that. And last but certainly not least, the company Prime One Studio has announced that they are going to be making some super high-class Bloodborne: The Old Hunters merchandise, and I don't know if you guys can hear this, but I'm rubbing my hands back and forth like an evil supervillain thinking about it. Apparently, they had one of these for Arkham Knight that was like a big Arkham Knight, like a big statue of the Arkham Knight. Now, I don't know what if this is going to be the same thing, but apparently the Arkham Knight one was like $900. So I would love to buy myself a little Bloodborne statue to put on. I don't usually go for merch, but I would love to get a Bloodborne statue that I could put on my desk and just look at and go hee 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 hee. But if it's $900, no, that's terrible. Why would I spend? I don't care if it's actually an actual living little hunter from Bloodborne that they ship you in a box that runs around and tries to break out of his little thing. I'm not getting that.
Sounds a little dangerous.
Holy shit. Okay, never mind. I'm not going to be able to afford any of this. I just found another one of the things. They made a Optimus Prime from Transformers Dark of the Moon that is $2,299, wow. Like $2,300. That's not fucking true, is it? Oh my god, yeah, it is. Who would even who Kevin, who in the world would spend $2,300 on Dark of the Moon merchandise? I can even almost say that, like, if you're a huge Transformers fan, if you're like Matt Frank and you got way too much money and you really like the first Michael Bay Transformers movie, you might spend $2,000 on a statue that's like all intricate and you're just like, ooh, look how cool it is. It's so intricate. But this was like the fourth shitty Transformers movie.
Yeah.
I didn't even like
that guy
it.
who bought the Wu-Tang album. No, he just went to jail, so it's not him.
Well, that was like Wu-Tang had like one copy of their album that they sold,
right? Yeah,
and the guy that bought it went to jail. How did that work?
Well, he's the guy that raised that drug price from like $3 to like $700 or something.
Oh,
so he's like the most hated man in America or something. I don't know. That's just what they say. But he just got arrested today.
Did he?
For not related to the drug, but related to his other business where they say he was basically using stock to pay off debt, which, you know, you're not allowed to do. So they totally arrested him. And I don't know where that Wu-Tang album might get auctioned off again.
Martin Shkreli?
Yeah.
Shkreli. Dude, that is awesome. That guy is a piece of shit. Like, I read an article just like last week where he was like, yeah, we totally bought up this other anti-parasite medicine that they use in Central America that costs like $50 to $100 for a full treatment. We're going to raise it to like $10,000 for a full treatment. It's just like, go fuck yourself, you stupid, horrible piece of shit. I'm glad you're arrested. I hope that somebody with a horrible disease does horrible things to you in a horrible little room in jail or something. That is awesome. That just made my day. I don't need to see Star Wars, Kevin. That guy getting arrested. There's been so much downer shit in the media, and I'm just like, good. Yes. Yay. All right. So I'm saying I hate to take so much pleasure in somebody else's misery, but boy, that guy's a piece of shit. Boy, he's just such a piece of shit. And that is where our news has to come to a conclusion. I'm kind of sad at learning that these old Hunters things will probably be too expensive for me, but oh well. Maybe I'll put it on a Amazon wish list and then just be like, hey, Rage Select fans, do you have $2,300? Well, don't spend it on whatever this is. Mail it to me in an envelope. Mail it to me in a dirty brown paper bag. But all right, well, we're going to take a break, and when we come back, we are going to answer some questions. We actually didn't get a chance last week because of all the Sony news, but I got a whole bunch of questions, some from this week, some from last week. So stay tuned. We'll be back in just a moment. All right, folks, welcome back to it's time for the question segment. But Kevin, before that happens, you know, we went out talking about this Shkreli guy arrest, and I actually was just on my Facebook, and I noticed I told you about this one story, but that thing has to be a joke. But this is not a joke. Is that some guy went and basically filed a Freedom of Information request for the Wu-Tang album with the government. after his arrest, like for realsies, like sent the government a Freedom of Information Act request for the Wu-Tang album. I'm like, that would be so awesome if this asshole's arrest led to, it's almost like, oh, hey, it's your birthday, here's the most delicious cake in the world, also I got you this blowjob, that's pretty cool too, right? Like, not only was this douchebag taken out of circulation, well, I mean, I'm sure it's just a matter of time before he weasels his way out, but if all of that leads to us getting the Wu-Tang Clan's new album, I'm all for it. But enough love for Wu-Tang. It's time for the question and answer segment, and we actually have a full roster of questions because we didn't get to any last week. So mail@rageselect.com is the email address for sending your question, and our first one comes in from our friend VJ, who says, hey guys, VJ here. Jeff's latest rant about the Final Fantasy series has resonated with me and got me thinking, what the fuck happened to Final Fantasy? For me, it's the fact that the technological progress enables game developers to render massive fantasy worlds, which ultimately feel empty. However, back in the day, developers had to do with rudimentary tools to tell their story, and our imagination filled in the rest. I feel that the individual hand-painted screens had more depth than the complete 3D rendered worlds of modern games. Another example, as infuriating as random encounters were, I somewhat missed them. The chance of being ambushed by monsters at any time made the world feel more alive. The probability of special monster encounters added to the experience, whereas being able to see them before fighting them takes away the surprise. Who knows, maybe I'm just old and feeling nostalgic about the magic of discovering a new Final Fantasy game as a kid. Growing up sucks. What do you think? Thanks for answering my question, and praise the dong, VJ. So, Kevin, a little context here is that this kind of came from the last week when they showed that Final Fantasy VII remake footage. And I kind of got off on a little bit of a tangent of like, it seems like Square is trying to make all of their RPGs real time, right? Between Final Fantasy 15, this remake, and Kingdom Hearts, which I know Kingdom Hearts was always real time, but it seems like they've really moved away from the whole, turn-based
strategy.
Yeah, you move, I move type of thing. Do you have any thoughts on that? Do you care about, do you do Final Fantasy at all?
I mean, I've played some of them.
Mm-hmm.
I never did play 7. Mm-hmm. And so I will, go into this kind of cold. But, the one thing is, with a lot of these RPGs, I think they follow the trends that are going on in Japan. If turn-based strategy in Japan has, turned downward and real-time combat is now the thing, mm-hmm. then I think they go that way. Because it seems like all those games sort of follow each other in terms of features and, combining ingredients to build weapons, combining attacks, etc. And it seems like there's just, I don't know, it just flows like a trend. And if the trend is down, then they're going another way. In terms of gameplay, I mean, personally, I prefer things being more real time. But I respect the fact that I think you brought up a good point a long time ago that, kind of like a random monster encounter that appears, you don't really know what you're going to get when you enter that combat. So you end up, having a bit of a surprise each time. It's kind of like opening a present up. Just got to do it 1,000 times in a row, but
yeah, the world's worst present that is delivered to you every 5 minutes, randomly, where it's like you're trying to get work done at your office, and at some point between 5 and 10 minutes, somebody shows up at your desk and says, "Happy birthday! Here's another present." And you're like, "What is it?" "It's a staple." "Oh, good. I've already got 100 of those, but thank you." Yeah, I think that this particular, I like your idea about the way that trends happen in video games. I think that for me, a lot of this comes down to the fact that there are certain types of video game mechanics that fall out of style. And for me, I never got tired of those mechanics to the point where I don't mind us moving on to something that's more interesting than that, or evolving those mechanics to make them feel better. But I mean, I always say this all the time that I love Metroidvania games, right? I think that's a great system of having this 2D world. It's so easy to get into. You have some mechanics about upgrades, and you get this new thing that opens up this part of the map that you couldn't get to before, and now you could do that, and it really gives you a sense of accomplishment and kind of exploration. But they just don't make those games anymore. Like, you'll get one a year, or a couple indie games will come out. Like, I think Axiom Verge this year was a very Metroidvania style game. I don't understand why they don't. I don't understand why they stopped, or maybe they stopped because they weren't making money anymore. But there was that whole string of Game Boy Advance and the DS Castlevania games that all, like, each one to me seemed like it was better than the last one. They all had these really interesting mechanics that you could unlock, and so I feel that it's just like, but that the kind of turn-based. I mean, as somebody who's played games for a long time, Kevin, that turn-based tactical, right? Like, right. It used to be a big thing, or space flight sim combat used to be a big thing back in the old days. Even puzzle games, for as much as Telltale and a couple of other companies have done to revamp that particular genre, is largely out of favor as in exchange for things like first-person shooters and third-person shooters and MMOs and things like that. I mean, I get real upset at, or not upset, but just a little dismayed at Xenoblade Chronicles. That's a big old JRPG, but it's got this kind of faux MMO combat where it's all about aggro management and, getting a tank and a healer and that kind of thing together. Whereas there's something that's really easy to understand and elegant and simplistic about, like, my guys line up on this side and your guys line up on this side. Right. We're all going to take turns going like, ha-ha, and then boo. So, I mean, I'll go back to one of the other things that I'm a big fan of is that there's no reason, since video games, there's no reason why you can't have both. There's no reason why we can't have, and I think that you see that in things like Bravely Default this year was a very Final Fantasy line up and hit each other kind of strategy game. I just wish there were more of them and that they were a little bit more interesting. I still don't really know how I feel about that Final Fantasy VII.
I think remake. You see a lot of that on like 3DS, but it probably has to do with the younger generation. I mean, they probably, look at who's picking these games up, and if the kids are, and they're probably like planning for the future. You're in that kind of a business. You're looking at what the kids are playing and what they're going to be playing down the road. And, older guys like us, we'll pick up the game and we'll play, what we like, but I don't think we're like we're not the bread and butter of the industry anymore.
No, absolutely not. Yeah, it's one of those things that this year I thought about an awful lot this year, is that you are absolutely right in that I am 37 years old. I am no longer the target demographic for anything. Not movies or music or television shows or video games at this point. So, yeah, the game industry could care less whether I want to see a bunch of knights line up on one side and line up on the other side. Which is, I mean, it's one of the reasons that I love so much that that Dark Souls has ended up being so influential to the video game industry, because that is a combat system that I really like, and you're seeing it aped in other games, even in just very small ways, or even things like just the discovery of the world through item descriptions have happened in other games. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, at this point, it seems like I played the demo for a 3DS game that had that whole style of, you hit, I hit, and it seemed pretty cool. I don't remember what it was called, some Atlas game that came out for $20 for the 3DS. And there's some stuff out there like Darkest Dungeon on the PC is kind of like that. That's kind of a real
Persona.
Yep. I wonder if Persona 5 from the trailers looks like it's going to be very much like real that time? As well. What's that? Rhythm game?
It was real time.
No, turn-based.
Okay.
I mean, Persona has that. I mean, even the Nintendo. I watched some of the E3 footage of the new Shin Megami Tensei versus Persona or whatever it is that they're putting out on the Wii U next year, which is also kind of a turn-based thing. So it's still out there. It's just that I guess it used to be. It's so jarring that it used to be. You pick up a game that had Square on the cover of it, you knew what you were getting, right? You knew that you were getting that.
Absolutely.
Something like that. And now it's very much the opposite. Let's see. Our next question comes in from Daniel. This is a little bit more esoteric. He says, "Hey, Rage Masters. I know that most of the crew is very anti-brand and does not give a shit what label is slapped on an item. As long as it's good, it doesn't matter. However, I'm sure there's at least one exception to that rule. Is there a brand that you'll buy before you buy any of the competing items? For For example, it'd be like Coca-Cola fans not buying Pepsi products or generic brands. Thanks and take care, Daniel. Kevin, you have any brand loyalty whatsoever?
For video games?
I think this is more generalized, just anything. I think is this person just giving us an opening to pimp out this sponsored, like we're on an old 1940s talk show of just like Pall Mall. It's soothes the throat. Whenever I scream into the mic, I like to smoke Pall Mall brand cigarettes.
It's an interesting thing, though, when you think about it from a video game perspective. Like, is there a brand in video gaming that when you look at it, you always expect to have a quality, fun experience? And, Nintendo would be the only one that I think, and I'm not into Nintendo games, but it's a pretty reliable, brand. If they're going to come out with a first-party title, it's probably going to be good. Mm-hmm. It's probably going to be good. But I don't know if I can think of any other company off the top of my head that has that kind of track record.
I think Blizzard
that actually cares enough not to release a bunch of garbage. Blizzard
does. I mean, I think that one of the things that I respect about Blizzard is the fact that they've literally canceled entire video games because they weren't good enough to put out, and high profile ones too. I think that in a lot of ways you can also probably look at, if you want to look at individual developers as brands. Like I know I'm such a little Kojima fanboy, but Kojima generally tends to not just re-release the same junk over and over again. Like he seems to want to keep things interesting and keep, making new and different types of things, which, considering the fact that he probably just could have put out, like Metal Gear Solid 2 could have had just almost the exact same mechanics of Metal Gear Solid 1, and probably everybody would have been okay with it, if they hadn't bothered to evolve all that much. But
right.
I'm trying to think of other. Yeah, it used to be LucasArts back in the day. I talk about that all the time, right? It used to be, that you could get a LucasArts game and that it would be pretty solid.
Way back in the day, Electronic Arts was always had a really good track record. But now I forget about it.
Yeah, everything eventually goes to shit and is terrible. And I think that I tell you, I got one more. Is Devolver Digital, the publisher Devolver Digital, at least makes some. John and I always give them a lot of love when we talk about their games on the show, because they tend to publish really interesting stuff. I mean, hell, they just put out that new Hatoful Boyfriend game that we just covered on the website.
Pigeons, right on.
Mm-hmm. That's such a strange franchise, and and really like a case study, Kevin, in the fact that like it's not just such a strange franchise, but it's got like a really passionate fan base that like with fan art of the various pigeons, I was looking at the Steam reviews for Hatoful Boyfriend Holiday Star, and there were a bunch of them that were thumbs up that just said that like this game has this one bird name in it, like would play again or something. Like that's the only information that was provided by the Steam review is like, my favorite bird had a machine gun in this, and so it is literally the best game I've ever played. Yeah, goddamn. The fact that
people are crazy.
Japanese bird dating sims, right? I mean, goddamn, really? All right, let's see here. Next up, this one comes from Katie J, who says, "Good evening, guys. I played Star Wars Battlefront 2 recently, and it is not the same game I played on the original Xbox. I have the fucking box to prove it. I don't understand what the hell that is on Steam. You're totally justified with your opinion of it being total garbage. It is. However, as old as it may be, the original sequel is still a lot of fun. You're right with the story, but the gameplay mechanics are rather smooth for its time. My question is, have you ever encountered anything like this situation, where you go to play a game you used to love on another console, and it just wasn't even close to how it was before? If not, I have no other questions, and just wanted to say thank you very much for all the content. It gets me through even the darkest moments of depression. May Lord Dogacles Humongous bless you with his guzzling." Katie J. I guess something that comes up every so often, Kevin, right? Of looking back on stuff and just being like, oh.
I certainly go back and play an old game, and it's not as fun as it used to be, but I don't have too many experiences of going from one console to another console playing the same game. and finding it to be that different that I find it, unappealing.
Mm-hmm. I think that, I mean,
at least none I can think of.
I think that the kind of crazy thing is that every so often you'll go back, and I don't know if I can think of anything. I'm trying to think of a specific example. Is that you'll go back, so this was spawned by when everybody was complaining pantsing about the Star Wars Battlefront, and everybody was like, "Oh, Star Wars Battlefront 2 is so much better." I own that on Steam, so I went ahead and installed it and brought it up, and I was like, "All right, Star Wars Battlefront, blow my goddamn socks off." And it was like, but it was interesting to look back on because it doesn't have any iron sights, it doesn't have any customization of the classes. Like it's a very just point the reticle at the thing you're looking to shoot and then hold down the button until it's dead.
Right.
Oh, hell, it goes back to us talking about Fallout 4 before, is I think that a lot of times the things that catch me off guard is that I forget that when you go back to a certain era of first-person shooting, that it was just now everything feels relatively good. And when you go back, there's a lot of times where certain mechanics feel really stilted, and it just seems like go back and play the original Resident Evil, right? Or any of those old games that have tank controls, and you're just like, oh, God, why was this ever acceptable to anybody? Actually, it's funny because Resident Evil was another one of the things I wanted to talk about for survival horror. Seems like is maybe on its way out.
Sure.
As opposed to kind of action horror.
On the PC, it's forever. I guess there's so much of that, but consoles, it seems to be dying out. But Five Nights at Freddy's stuff,
Yeah, but that isn't really survival horror. That's just
True. Although there's a lot of survival games without the horror. That's a weird genre of games, too, is see if you can live in the, off the land for as long as possible. That's really weird. I didn't see that coming in terms of video games.
I think that's all Minecraft's fault, right? Is that Minecraft started that, and then I was playing one of those the other day called Hardland that was in early access, and it was multiplayer only, and I was just playing along, minding my own business, and then two guys ran up to me and stabbed me and took all my shit and then left, and I was like, well, that was an hour well spent. Glad that I spent all that time making a stone axe. I guess I'll start making a stone axe from scratch, which is why I just can't get my head around Rust or DayZ or one of those games where people just run up to you and then take all your shit and kill you and leave you for dead. So, whatever. All right, this next one comes in from Thomas, who says, "Hail to the dong. Hi, Jeff and Kevin, longtime fan and patron. As it's approaching the end of the year, my question is, what has been the most memorable level in a video game that has been released this year? And what makes this level stand out and why? Cheers, and thanks for all the laughs, from Thomas." Oh, boy, this is an open-ended question. Let's see here. Yeah. I'm trying to kind of looking through I think that there's some stuff in Bloodborne that I can talk about, but what do you think, Kevin? Anything stand out? Any particular segment of a game stand out to you at all this year? Like Witcher 3, was there anything in there that was interesting or dynamic? I never got
the sex on the unicorn thing. That was kind of exciting. Sex in the lighthouse, or the sex with the witch. That was all good. Yeah. Those were good times. Yeah.
Was that the witch that was taking a bath in a bunch of water that was just sitting in midair or something like that?
No, I don't. That might have been in there too. I can't even remember that. No, I think I was on a beach, getting busy. And, lighthouse, unicorn. It's all just coming back to me now. But yeah, that or. Fallout 4 has the part in the game where the Brotherhood of Steel have their blimp fly over, or their Zeppelin. Mm-hmm. That's pretty cool for a minute in that game, because you kind of feel like, there's more to it than what you've been experiencing, and, you're going to get to be part of something. Mm-hmm. Kind of peters out after that, but it was pretty exciting when that first happened in the game. Yeah, I like it when that happens, because, they tell you, you're on the roof of a building, I guess. You go outside, and then immediately this huge thing comes rolling in, and you're just like, whoa, all right, things are getting serious. And then, of course, I haven't gotten to the end of the game, but and then from there, it's you guys have this giant assault blimp, but you're sending me out
on foot with a handful of bottle caps to figure out every single thing? Did you just carpet bomb downtown Boston and then go pick through the remains? And let's see. I'm just looking through stuff that's come out this year. I think that that's actually some parts of the Order 1886 that are kind of interesting on paper. Not actually real fun to play, but interesting to kind of look at. Let's see.
Paper? What do you mean? Like you read something in the game?
More just like
literature.
It would be fun to watch somebody else play it, like the horrible mini game where you're fighting the werewolves. If you just cut that together into like a trailer, I'd be like, oh, that's pretty cool. But
okay.
I gotta find that other thing that I was looking at because I can't just say the Order 1886. Good God, that's one of the more boring games that came out this year. Where the hell is that thing? Helldivers really stood out for me this year. I really enjoyed that game. Oh, Hotline Miami 2 had some really, like, there were a couple of, did you play Hotline Miami 2?
I'm terrible at it. I can barely get anywhere.
Well, there's a couple because it wasn't all just the same person. They were switching between different characters. There was this one guy that was that he would like accidentally kill a person. Like it seemed like he was always in this position where like the guy at the front of the club would be like, "Get the fuck out of here, you're stupid," and then he would like go crazy and murder the guy. But he couldn't use guns at all. Like if you picked up the enemy's guns, he would just take them apart and disable them. So it's like you had to go through these big levels that were all full of guys with guns, but you were forced to use the melee combat in the game that I thought was really interesting. The expansion to Bloodborne, the Old Hunters, has had a couple like a really striking levels in there. I don't want to spoil anything. There's like basically the Shadow of Innsmouth village at the end of that game that's really interesting. Let's see. Let's just roll down the list here and see if there's anything else that really stands out. Rogue Legacy, Splatoon doesn't have any like super interesting levels. I think that the open world of Metal Gear Solid 5 is really interesting the first time that you look at it. It doesn't really hold up as you continue to play it for hours and hours and hours and hours at a time. You didn't end up playing that, did you?
No, I did not.
Okay. Yeah, I'm going to stick with that. There's probably some more. I didn't get all the way till the end of Until Dawn, but there was some stuff in there that seemed like it could be really interesting. So, I'm not going to continue to grind this podcast to a halt by just going, let me look through this list. So, next question here is from Bert Cocaine, who says, "Greetings all. Bert Cocaine here with a question regarding the latest Mega Man announcement. Seems that everyone who wanted a new Mega Man game was rewarded recently with Mega Man X for the PS4. However, it seems because it was not the quotey fingers Mega Man game gamers want, that there isn't any fanfare for the new title. Other than DMC, can you name a game that was killed due to unwarranted fan negativity? Thanks and stay angry, Bert Cocaine." They announced a new Mega Man title for the PlayStation 4?
Yeah, it's new to me. I didn't hear anything about that.
Okay. Let's see. Wii PS3? No, that's not. I don't know what the hell he's talking about. Anyway, games that were killed because of fan negativity that are not DMC. That's an interesting question. I think Star Wars Battlefront. Hell, man, you even told the story, Kevin.
Yeah.
Like you didn't even actually play the game, but it was just kind of the negativity that
turned me off from it.
Yeah, put the kibosh on it. Let's see. I know that there was so much complaining about Mass Effect 3 that in retrospect, after all the DLC and everything is out, I mean, I think it's still kind of a weak ending, but it didn't really kill the game. I'm trying to think of things that actually got...
Alien Colonial Marine? It didn't really kill the game, but did kill the DLC, though. The season pass was stopped.
Oh, yeah. I don't know. I'm having a hard time coming up with any of that. I should probably pick out these... Kevin, I should probably pick out questions that I have a ready answer for. I probably shouldn't pick out these questions and then try on the fly to come up with some kind of answer for it. It'd be like, maybe research what the hell this guy's talking about. Sorry, Bert, I don't have any answers for you outside of DMC. Resident Evil 6, maybe? I think that still sold relatively well, though, right? I don't know. Anyway, this next one comes up from Alex, and Alex says, "Hello, swinging pendulums of the Dong Lord. All games have mechanics. Some are great, some are not so great. If you could add a mechanic from any game into another game, what would it be? For example, I'd love to see the grappling hook from Just Cause in Bloodborne, not only for travel, but to pin enemies for a brief moment or interact with doors or move large objects. Thanks for answering my question from Australia, mates." Sorry, Alex. And then he says Alex. So, moving stuff from one game, mechanics from one game to another. I'm going to say, Kevin, that I really want the portal gun in every single video game. Like, if they're not going to...
Yeah, I was going to say something similar, right?
If they're not going to give me Portal 3, then at least you could do is put Portal into every other video game that happens, or that comes out. Anything else? I also, you know what? I also think it'd be really interesting to take that Dark Souls invasion mechanic where other people can just come into your game and try to kill you and put it into other games. Like, I think it'd be interesting if you were playing The Witcher 3 and then somebody was able to just pop into your Witcher game as an evil spirit and come after you, or Fallout. Why doesn't Fallout have like some kind of limited multiplayer support? Would that, I mean, I feel like since Skyrim the people have been wanting that. And they made the whole Elder Scrolls Online, but I think it'd be more interesting just to get like a couple of your friends to play Skyrim with. Why don't? Maybe that's what I want, is a little bit of co-op in my my RPGs from here on out. Yeah. All right. Next question comes in from author A. Applebottom, who says, "Good day to you, Rage Select. I just signed up for the PlayStation Now subscription, and I'm finding it rather awesome. It's incredibly smooth and easy to use, and the gameplay just like they would if I actually had the game disc in my PS3. I have completely switched from physical to digital downloads years ago, and with the new generation growing up, not experiencing CDs, DVDs, and Blu-rays as we have. So my question is, will the Sony PlayStation Now be the first step that starts an end to physical discs and this is strangely worded. This first step that starts an end to physical releases of video games and / or movies. Love the show and keep it on from Black Blood, aka author A. Applebottom." Okay, you got two crazy internet aliases, sir. You got to pick one crazy internet alias and then just stick with that. You can't have two. Well, I feel like we're already like, what, 70% of the way there? Do you get many physical games, Kevin? Or Blu-rays? I mean, having a bunch of Blu-ray boxes around, or
yeah, I mean, a lot of times I'll get stuff from GameFly and then I'll just pay to keep it.
Mm-hmm.
So, they send you the box and then I have the game and the disc and stuff. So it's pretty much how I get most of my games these days.
Have you ever thought about switching over to getting most of the stuff through digital download? Or I know that you're a collector, so it's probably different for you as you want to actually have the physical.
Yeah, I mean, I don't have anything really against it except for the fact that, I don't trust these companies to still have those games 10 years from now. Being a bit older, I understand maybe the reality of, the changes that can happen in the gaming universe and how they'll be, we're retiring X and you can only, get it. Because, I mean, what was that first streaming service? That's gone now, right? What was that called?
Yeah. Gaikai? No, that was the one that they bought. The other one. Yeah. What was the name of that? OnLive? Was that it?
Yeah, OnLive, and you bought games and you would have them in the cloud, and then they went out of business, and they, their terms of service, basically said, that's it, you're out the game. So, I kind of have a thing where, I'd like to see games be playable for future generations, just like Ataris and Nintendos and things are today. People can go back and play those things, and they can emulate them to death, but a lot of times without the original console and the original controller and the whole perspective of that system, the gameplay is never quite the same. So, I don't know, maybe I'm just a purist in that sense, but I generally like to purchase my games physically.
I think this year is funny because I've spent one of the nice things about buying a digital game on the PlayStation 4 is that it has this countdown timer if it's got a midnight launch, right? And when the countdown hits 0, the game literally just launches and starts playing at midnight. And I've done that a few midnight launches this year and streamed them on Rage Select for I think it was like Bloodborne and Metal Gear and maybe Fallout as well. But it's funny because as time goes on, I digitally bought The Witcher 3, and I also bought Mortal Kombat X. And as the year has gone on, I've really regretted that decision because I've got a bunch of more casual friends that all bought PlayStations 4 this year, and they're like, "I'd love to borrow some games from you." And I realized that I'm not going to be playing Metal Gear Solid 5, but I would love to be able to hand it to somebody else and be like, "Hey, give this a shot. See what you think about this." And I just can't. I just straight up can't do that with the digital purchases, and so it's really made me think that unless it's very convenient to do that, but boy,
don't they offer? Isn't there something though where you can like share your game library? Maybe that's only on Steam or something where you can share your game library, or if you're not playing the game. I mean that those kind of ideas are good in theory. I'm not sure how well they work in practice because I've never done it with anybody, but if they had something more like that, then maybe I could see a better value. I mean, I'm not a crazy person, though. I mean, if the game is a lot cheaper online than it is in the store, I'll buy it online. Mm-hmm. I think that's how Steam has been so successful in basically pretty much eliminating physical copies of video games, is that they offer games at a much lower price, and fairly often. And console stores, they have deals every so often, but for the most part, they like to keep those prices high. Electronic Arts, they're not giving you anything for a serious discount ever.
Yeah, or Nintendo. I mean, I know that Nintendo runs sales from time to time, but I think that if you want to go online, and I think that like Splatoon is still $50 or $60 on the Wii U store or something like that. I will say though, the one thing that Devil's Third just came out, and that was really interesting because it was such a small run. I was looking at the story. I think it was somebody on Facebook that I saw that shared the story about somebody who paid like $160 for a physical copy of Devil's Third because it had such a small run, and but it's also fully available for $50 on the on the Wii U store. So
okay.
It was a little bit ridiculous.
Jeez.
But yeah, I wish that I had those physical copies, and I think that I'm going to go back to kind of doing that. Have you used PlayStation Now, the PlayStation Now service?
I think I did once.
I
didn't have time to really get into it.
Mm-hmm. I actually just recently loaded up a few PlayStation Now games. I think I actually loaded up Resident Evil 6. Like I was sitting here and I have a subscription to PlayStation Now. It's like you pay
okay,
$15 a month or something like that. You get access to a bunch of stuff. It seemed pretty terrible. Like
oh really?
Well, like there's still, it may just be my internet connection, but it was still like there's just a small,
noticeable lag.
Yeah, just a little delay. And for anything, I mean, for any kind of like RPG, that would probably be fine. But for any actual action game, like it just created this weird like chaff in my mind that just kind of just didn't feel as right as it should have.
Yeah, I have one of those Steam links, and that's just over the local LAN, streaming it off my PC. And even in that situation, I'll often get like a weird kind of blurry screen as it sort of like does some sort of resolution lowering or something in order to, because who knows, something happened on my network, and
right.
So it's like it takes you out of the experience of the game when that happens. You're just kind of you're hoping it doesn't screw up your whole gameplay and that kind of thing.
Did you?
Well, the Steam controller kind of does that for me. So.
Oh, do you have one of those?
Yeah.
How is it? I'm really curious. People keep asking us about it, and John and I last week kept saying, I think we had another question about that where we said, I can't really justify spending $50 on this. I've got a bunch of controllers that totally work, and but how it's not as good as a regular controller, and it's not as good as a mouse and a keyboard. Oh, okay.
So it's just
the
like
worst
in
of all
between.
worlds. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's not. It's not like you can't use it, but you've got to be like in that weird situation where you are playing. You want to play like a PC game that needs a keyboard and a mouse, in front of your TV, and you don't want to have a keyboard and a mouse in front of your TV. So you choose this other option, and it works. It works. You can do it, but I mean, it's not better than a mouse or we've spent decades now making the controller and the mouse and the keyboard, ergonomic and responsive and exact and precise. And now you got Valve wanting to like shake the whole thing up and give you this other thing. And I mean, I know a guy that's kind of handicapped and he loves it. Because, he has a real problem playing games with the mouse. And so, for guys like that, rock on, or if you're one of those like American Psycho type of people that like has like the totally clean living room with the, stainless steel everything, and you're going to have one controller.
Right.
There, that's for you. You know what I mean? But anybody else, I just can't see choosing it over the other options.
Yeah.
It's just not superior to the other options.
So here's the question: is I know that they talked about when they were putting it together that they talked about that as you move your fingers over the two touch pads that are there, that they were going to have like some haptic feedback that kind of like emulated buttons and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Okay. So it almost sounds when you're describing it like the biggest thing is that it's just having to relearn a whole new input mapping method when we already have several tried and true input methods that already totally work.
Your mouse is super precise. I mean, it's a laser these days, and it's looking at like, I don't know, microscopic atoms or something to determine how much finesse you've put on the mouse. And now all of a sudden your big thumb is on a trackpad that you're dragging around trying to get that same level of precision. And you can do this thing where you can also assign the motion control to give you a more precise aim. So you're dragging your thumb and then you're moving the controller around, which, I mean, if you've ever used 6-axis, it
sounds terrible.
It's like that. Yeah, it is terrible. It works. It works, though. I mean, because somebody out there is going to be like, I'm totally great and I can make it work and do stuff. You can totally make it work and do stuff. It's just awful. And the other thing, though, too, is that, like, obviously no game is designed for it. So you have to constantly, like, map keys off the keyboard to different buttons on the controller or look at them to figure out what configuration there is and then change it. And same with like when you start to play a game, you're constantly going into the menu and altering the dead space in the middle of the pad, or the ring, or determining your acceleration and all this sort of stuff. That if you just had a mouse, you'd just be like clickety clickety click. I mean, you'd just be going, you'd be playing the game,
right?
And then here you've got to spend half an hour of your game just effing around with it to get it going, and it's not an enjoyable experience. I mean, maybe one day they'll get something, but I don't know. Just get them, get a wireless mouse and a steel mouse pad and.
Well, it also
keyboard.
seems like I mean, I guess if you're like streaming, if you're streaming your PC to another TV, that makes a certain amount of sense. But if you're playing stuff on your PC, like. That whole, what is it, like a XNA toolkit or whatever that Microsoft put out several years ago, most games have controller support already. Like, you just plug an Xbox 360 controller in, boom, you're good to go. You are 100% good to go. So having to get a whole other thing just to take the place of something that already works perfectly, I mean, it's almost like the sort of thing where if this had come out before there was that standardization of that framework from Microsoft, that would be a whole different story. But as it is, I don't know. I don't get it.
It's not.
The Steam Link also does it?
It works fine.
Yeah.
It works pretty good. I mean, it doesn't work. What it does is, it opens up Steam in big picture mode, and it lets you choose, from the games that it supports, which is most of everything. But some of the things that it says it supports, it doesn't. Like, which is no big deal. But like that second Days X game, for instance, because like the FMV drops to some ridiculously low television resolution, and it just can't handle that. But it's decent enough. I mean, it totally works. And you know what? For $50 to get your PC experience on your big television, it's totally worth the price.
Okay.
But don't pair it with that crazy controller. Just use a regular Xbox controller, and you're good to go.
Can you plug? I'm looking at this here. Can you plug a regular Xbox 360 controller into? Yes. Okay, so the USB ports on there will support a regular controller. Well, that makes even less sense, Kevin. What the fuck? Like, come on.
And you can plug in a hub and work off the hub, so you can have the keyboard, the mouse, and the controller all plugged in if you want.
Well, then what? Come on, Valve. What the hell are you doing? Wow, that's crazy. Okay, and I guess I don't want to get too far off on this, but you're the only person that I know that actually has one of these. Is there any of that weird input lag like you would see sometimes on live when you're using the stream on the Steam Link, where you're pressing to the left or right, and there's just enough of a delay that it kind of breaks your immersion?
I'm not going to say there's none. Like I said, at times it got foggy. I mean, it really depends on how busy your network is. If your brother's all of a sudden downloading a bunch of porn on BitTorrent, it's not like you're going to have a great gaming experience at the same time. So you kind of have to you have to think about that. I mean, I'm using a wired network, and it rocks. I mean, it's perfect, but like I said, my network starts doing something. I don't know what's going. I mean, I don't know. I mean, I host websites and things, and as people come on and stream videos off my Plex server sometimes. Somebody could have been doing something, so I don't know.
Okay, fair enough. All right, we got a couple more questions and we're done. This next one says, "Hello, Jeff and Kevin. This is Mitchell, and I was wondering what sequels to games you would like to see come out that have little or no chance of doing so. Mine would be Singularity, Vanquish, and Binary Domain." Thanks, Mitchell. Just take all of them. Why don't you?
Binary Domain. That's a throwback.
They had interesting features in the gameplay and were fun, though sadly it doesn't seem like sequels will be made for these underrated titles. But hey, at least Call of Duty gets one every year. Woohoo! That is from Mitchell. So smaller games that probably will never get a sequel that probably deserve one. I don't know, anything spring to mind for you, Kevin?
You ever see that Legacy of Kain deal that they had where they showed that game that they didn't finish? Like they had all the art assets and the game engine running, and they had like the intro at like the first hour or something with the FMV and all that sort of stuff.
No.
And then it was canceled by Eidos. Is it Eidos that has it now? Well, who owns them now? I forget. Square owns them. Anyway, yeah. I mean, that's like a series that they keep talking about rebooting, and I think they are going to reboot it again. But they totally had a game, a house working on one in the 2000s there, and then they canceled it for some reason. Mm-hmm. Money or the sale of Eidos, maybe. Something happened. Mm-hmm. And so they released all the art assets online. And there's like a video on YouTube of it and stuff like that. So I don't know. Legacy of Kain, because I could never get enough of that evil vampire stuff flying around.
I think it's funny because everything that I can think of were like all of my answers to this. I think in the last 2 months they've announced that they're gonna I'd love to be like Homeworld. Oh no, wait, there's a prequel for Homeworld coming. Yeah. Onimusha. Oh no, they're gonna make another Onimusha. I think that the one that I would most like to see that'll probably never happen will be I know that they're making a Darksiders 3, but that team that made Darksiders 1 and 2 isn't the same team.
Oh, that's a bummer. 2 was great.
Yeah, I'd love to. That remastered edition or whatever came out, and John and I played it a little bit on the website, and I was just like, oh yeah, this game is rad. It's
yeah.
In fact, it brought up this whole concept of how are there even bad video games? I look at this game and it's we've got this roadmap of how to make. I mean, Darksiders 1 and 2 are not doing anything that's especially interesting or not. No, that's not true. They're not doing anything new. They're just cribbing mechanics from other games, but they're just doing it so well.
The controls are really tight. Mm-hmm. It's really well done. Like, in a weird, like if you look at it from the outside, like just screenshots and stuff, you're just thinking it looks like everything else or something. You don't get the same appreciation when you start to play that game. It's just really tight.
Yep. Let's see, Valkyria Chronicles. No, they're making another Valkyria Chronicles. It's funny because he actually, motherfucking Mitchell here read my mind. Singularity to me is one of the most underrated games I've ever played. And Vanquish, I don't know, man. I wish Platinum would go back and make Bayonetta 3, but I don't think that we're ever going to see another Bayonetta game. God damn, I just had one more that I was just thinking. Oh, Bulletstorm. I want to see another Bulletstorm game. That's what I'd like to see.
What do you...
I freaking love that game.
You know Konami's going to make another Metal Gear without Kojima. What is your opinion on that? Like, you don't think... I know that, like, from a philosophical level, you don't want them to make one without Kojima, but from a game playing standpoint, would you play it? Would you
sure.
be into it?
Yeah. I mean, I played Metal Gear Rising, and I had a lot of crappy sideways kind of like high school girl complaints about it when it came out, where I'm just like, oh, this is pretty good, I suppose, if what you like is just ninjas and I don't have any problem with somebody else taking over that franchise, because it's kind of like, there have been all of these discussions that have come up recently about like the Star Wars prequels. Like, no matter how bad the Star Wars prequels were or not or whatever, sometimes I feel like that shit's gotten blown out of proportion. Like, they can't make the original movies bad. I mean, they can kind of, like, the whole Darth Vader is a lovesick jerk is a little like, okay, well, you kind of messed him up a little bit, but whatever. I can just pretend like that doesn't exist. But Metal Gear Rising Revengeance, I mean, that was a fun game that was just kind of a hacky slashy action type of game that Platinum made. I'd play another Metal Gear game. I just don't think that I'm the sort of person that people should come to evaluate a new Metal Gear game, because I'm just intrinsically biased. Like, there's really no way for me to it's very hard for me to even pretend to be able to divorce myself far enough to give people like an honest opinion about it. Because Kojima's a madman. Like, he's so detail-oriented about his games, and that's one of the things that I really like about him, to the point where I have no doubt that another person couldn't make a military tactical stealth action game. Like, it's not like this is the only franchise like that we've ever seen before. But I think it would lose a little something without the, like, weird, dumb, goofy philosophical stuff that he always jams in there about, like, love can bloom on a battlefield, or, taking orders, and the morality of being a soldier, or nuclear disarmament, or any of that shit. Right. Really goes to making Metal Gear, which is why I feel like a lot of times when people get real upset, like in Metal Gear Solid 4, about the length of the cutscenes or the weird philosophical stuff, and Metal Gear Solid 5, we saw what happens when you take all that out. Is that it's just like, I missed that. It was just kind of part of the goofy charm of the game. All right, and also, I know I always say it, but Prey 2. I really want Prey 2 to actually come out. I really want somebody to go back and get that. This last one, probably, Kevin, I don't know. Do you do comics at all, Kevin?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Well, then you will be able to help me out with this. Boss Captain Ross writes in and says, hello, Jeff and Kevin. Last week you mentioned being a big fan of Superman. I've never really been interested in Superman, but recently I've decided to give him a chance. Oh, that's so nice of you. Is there any particular storylines that you think I should pick up? All the best, Boss Captain Ross. It just occurred to me from the beginning part of the podcast, right, that you talked about being a big fan of the X-Men. Are you kind of Marvel only? Do you do any DC?
Well, I mean, when you go back in the day, yeah, you know what I mean? Like, nowadays, there's a lot of independent comics, and I read a lot of more adult-oriented fare, not like dirty, but like, like horror stories or mysteries, or a lot of post-apocalyptic type comics, and I look for what gets good reviews and that kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't read Superman, but I mean, I would say, being somebody who's never read Superman, that you should probably read about the death of Superman, because everybody and their brother talks about the death of Superman. So
Kevin, I was alive. I was in high school. I convinced my mom to go pick up the Death of Superman comics. It was such a big thing. And you go, have you ever watched that Max Landis talks about the death and return of Superman thing?
No, I didn't.
So there's a turn there, and it was like, because it was, I mean, he makes this point, and it was true. I know because I was there. It's like, this shit was on the news. Like they were like, oh my God, they're killing off Superman.
Right.
And you go read it, and boy, it's stupid. Like they just invent Doomsday, and he comes in and beats Superman to death in downtown Metropolis. And everybody cries, but see, that's the thing, is that there was so when I went to high school, there was a comic book store that was in walking distance of the high school, which I'm sure was no mistake for the people that put that comic book store there. So literally 1 week after the death of Superman, with the black, I think I sold it a few years ago, but I used to have the poly-bagged black bloody Superman. It had like a black armband in it that you could wear, and I didn't open it because that was in the 90s, and I thought it was like, ooh, this is going to be worth something, and then eventually it's like, no, they printed 10 million of these things. Nobody gives a shit about them. But literally the next week, I walk into the comic book store, and there are 4 new Superman comics about the Superboy, the Man of Steel who became Steel, the Cyborg Superman, and the Last Son of Krypton. And then Superman came back, and it was just like, what the... This was like a 2-month event, right? It wasn't actually a thing. Like I don't fucking. So to me, it was just like one of those. I'm 17. I was more into X-Men than I was into Superman. But I read them, and I was just like, huh? What's a bit? I don't know. All right, so I'm going to tell you. I've pulled up a few of these things. Grant Morrison's All-Star Superman is really fantastic. It's weird and goofy, and it's very much kind of like in the vein of the old. When you see those old Superman comics where it's like Jimmy Olsen, but his head is a peacock or something, and he's like, Superman, why won't you save me? And Superman is just like, fuck you, Jimmy. And he's flipping him off. It's kind of like somebody took one of those. It's such a weird concept. They've actually had. I think there was an animated version of it that was pretty decent, but it didn't go into really the specifics of it, which the comic gets way better. There's one called Whatever Happened to the Man of Tomorrow that came out in 1986 that is a really interesting Alan Moore Superman story that is pretty decent. There's one that everybody talks about called For the Man Who Has Everything that I've heard about, but I've never actually read. And I'm going to tell you guys right now, I'm going off of this IGN list that I've read some of these, and I've read Whatever Happened to the Man of Tomorrow. That's a really good book. It's just like 2 or 3 issues. It was like an Alan Moore trade that you can get. Kingdom Come is good. It's not exactly a Superman story, but Superman is one of the primary figures in it. And A Superman for All Seasons also really is a good Superman story. It's Jeff Loeb and Tim Sale. And then I actually really like I don't know if it translates very well, but there's a book called What's So Funny About Truth, Justice, and the American Way. They translated it into one of the DC animated movies, and it's about this new super team that shows up that is in direct opposition to kind of Superman's philosophy of gee whiz, corn-fed, Smallsville kind of guy. But the thing that may not work for you if you're coming at this new is that team in that comic is a parody of Warren Ellis's Authority team that was running at the same time. That was a darker killing, they would kill bad guys, and they're much darker and more brutal bunch of superheroes. And this was kind of like the Superman's response to that evolution, which is I thought it was a really, really good story. Like I said, it may be lost. You may be losing a little bit if you're not as familiar with Planetary or with Authority. And then also, if you like Superman, all of Grant Morrison's run on JLA that's just great. I mean, you're getting Superman, you're getting Batman, you're getting Green Lantern and the Flash and stuff. And I know a lot of people hate Grant Morrison these days, but I still think that JLA run was really, really good. And then just as a bonus, if you want something that's a little bit off the beaten path, so Alan Moore got all fed up with DC Comics after a while because they wouldn't let him write the stories that he wanted to. So there was a point where he actually went and took over a Rob Liefeld superhero called Supreme, and basically he picked it up, and there's like two big volumes of Supreme. He basically took the book, because Supreme was like Rob Liefeld's anti-Superman. Like he was a Superman that just burned people to death with his laser vision, right? So Alan Moore picks up Supreme and immediately just destroys the entire Supreme universe and basically rewrites this new Supreme, and then starts telling all of the Superman stories that he always wanted to tell but never had, but DC wouldn't let him fuck up their character, right? So Supreme has a dog that's basically Super Dog or Crypto. He's got a sister called Suprema that is basically Supergirl. He hangs out with a version of both the JSA and the JLA that are all kind of just different remixes on those. And there's two big paperbacks. One's called Supreme Story of the Year, and then Supreme the Return. And those are both really good Superman stories, just not actually Superman. And so,
what do you think of the real question here is, what do you think of this Batman versus Superman movie that's coming out? Do you think that's going to be any good?
I've talked with my friend at length about this. It's one of those things like Metal Gear, Kevin, where I love Superman, but I love the gee-whiz, corn-fed, invincible Superman. I'm not looking for an angsty, like internally conflicted Superman that's got all these heavy problems in his life. So I didn't like Man of Steel, but I am also man enough to stand here and tell you that I didn't like it because that's not the Superman that I want. I want the animated Superman. So I look at this new one and I'm like, okay. I really feel like they're giving away way too much in these trailers. Like that last trailer where, again, I'm not going to go into specifics, but it's just like, that's the villain. And there's and it's just like, dude, save something for the actual movie.
Did you
I think it's gonna be okay. I mean,
did you buy Superman 64 day of release?
I didn't have an N64, so
you're a lucky man.
Yeah, in fact, I haven't played that many of the Superman video games. We were actually talking about John and I were talking last week about what there was a Superman Returns on the Xbox 360 that was terrible. There was a Superman game on the original Xbox that was supposed to be kind of terrible.
I don't think there's any good Superman games.
Even going back as the Atari 2600, that terrible Superman game on the Atari 2600. Yeah.
It should totally be like Batman, like Arkham. Like Superman just like flies down and just starts fighting people, except he never gets beat. He never gets tired and he never gets beat. It's like God mode Arkham.
Yeah.
You're just punching guys, like, and your fist is going through them. You can burn them with your eyes and stuff. I don't know. And then eventually somebody has some kryptonite and you lose. But
and then it's game over. And that's it. And then
right.
No, I tell you what, I've been saying this for years, is that everybody is, so many people, Kevin, make this exact argument that you're making about, like, how are you going to make a Superman game? What's he going to do? Beat up thugs? And you go, no, he's going to Apocalypse and he's going to fight Brainiac in space and the Manhunters and like these cosmic foes. He's going to get into a punching match with somebody like Darkseid that could actually punch Superman and hurt him, instead of like, yeah, of course none of us want to play a Superman game where you have to beat up thugs. He's faster than a speeding bullet. He's bulletproof, and he's got ice breath and laser. Yeah, I don't want to. He's not going to go after the Joker. It would take all of 10 seconds. He's Superman, for fuck's sake. Have him fight somebody else. Have it be a Telltale game where he's fighting, he's trying to outwit Lex Luthor or something like that. I don't know.
I still think that would be good, though, just to have it like as a cheat code in Batman to just become Superman and just wreak havoc.
There's been a few Batman stories where Batman gets knocked out of commission and like Superman has to stand in for Batman, and he doesn't really know how to do it. Like he doesn't know how to be all dark and everything like Batman. Like there's one, there was a comic or one of the animated series where like he's got like Robin on a headset trying to tell him, and Robin keeps telling him like, be meaner, like you're not being mean enough, because Superman just doesn't have it in him. Well, I tell you what, that's all the questions that I got this week. So we'll go ahead and wrap it up. I'm going to let everybody know that, hey, next week is Christmas, and we're not recording a podcast next week. So, and we're actually not going to record one the week after that because I'm going to run some syndicated reruns, Best of Rage Select. I'm going to finally give myself a week off, Kevin, and not.
Woo!
Yeah. What are you doing right now? Is there anything that you want to pimp out? Are you guys still doing the weekly live show?
Yeah, we're still doing videogamenews.com, which just takes you to the Facebook page. You can find all the information about the show there. And it's just every week. We just talk nonsense for an hour. It's a good time.
I think I tuned in one weekend. You were playing Murdered Soul Suspect, and I was just like, oh, Kevin, what are you doing here?
Yeah. It's just, background, right, on the YouTube stream. Just, entertainment. When somebody else is talking, I'm just like zoning out and playing a game during the show.
All right. Do you guys do that every Sunday?
Every Sunday, yep.
Okay. 8 p.m. I'm looking at the Facebook page.
8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Absolutely.
Okay. Cool. All right, folks. Well, take it easy. And we'll catch you back here next year for another podcast. But in the meantime, Merry Christmas. We are going to be having new videos all next week, special Christmas videos for everybody. And Kevin, thanks for coming by. It's been
absolutely.
It's been a blast.